Because trusting Wake 1 to treat a girl group right is like trusting a bubble not to pop, I decided to make this video while we still have a month before the official debut to hopefully convince someone somewhere in the EL7Z creative team to think twice. I have so many fears about this group's creative direction, and I just don't know what to do with myself if it ends up being a hot mess of wadada proportions. In my last video, I shared some thoughts on what kinds of songs I think they would be able to pull off, but I was struck quite violently by a vision of a debut album. A full-length album at that, since, you know, they're going on tour and they should probably have a few songs to call their own. But before we get into that, I want to promote some upcoming releases from the contestants so we can all try to tune in. Like I mentioned in the finale video, High Key will be having their comeback with Soul Dreaming on August 30th. Purple Kiss will release their first single album Festa on September 5th. Weekly have also announced their first comeback in over a year, aiming for an October release. I hope you guys can talk about that one online so we can make sure IST doesn't scrap it. Triple S's Lovelution unit also had their debut earlier with an album I cannot be bothered to learn how to pronounce and title track Girls Capitalism. The unit features Soyeon and former Girls Planet contestants Shinyu and Nian. WM Entertainment also confirmed Lee Chaeyeon's comeback for September. Also, Rocket Punch announced a comeback for September 6th, same as Chaeyeon with their single Boom. Also, if you guys want to support groups who deserve better, Everglow had their first comeback in 2 years on the 18th of August with Slay, and Brave Girls rebranded to BB Girls and released their first song One More Time on the 3rd. I think that's all of them so far. Oh wait, Primrose had their first comeback with 3 new members, including former Bugaboo's Rainy, former Hot Issues Nahyun, new member Hyun, and original member Ruby with their second mini-album Laffy Taffy on August 18th. I thought for a few days about it and determined that the last thing I want them to do is a girl crush concept. We got so much of it during the show that I'm pretty sure I filled my quota for the next 2 years. Do I think they'll be performing Snap and Charismatic and IDGA, Puzzle and Bad Blood, etc. during the tour? Yes, absolutely. So if we already have a full section of those types of songs using only the songs already released on the show, why would we have even more as new original songs? It would get tiring quicker than Mnut's formulaic editing. As someone who has been to a concert a few times in my life, the setlist needs chapters. You need calm and bright songs just as much as you need strong and powerful performance songs. So let me walk you through the debut album of Queendom Puzzle's EL7Z as I envision it. But first, positions. There are a few very obvious positions, but I'll go through them anyways. Starting with Hwiseo, our first rank. While I do think she is a strong center, she's not the strongest in this lineup. She can easily take the role of the center in pictures and standing order, but I have someone else in mind for performances. This makes her one of our incredible lead vocalists and lead dancers. I would also put her down as a face of the group in order to reward her first place ranking and reflect that she gained a lot of attention from the show and they would be foolish not to push her. I also, like I said in my Kepler video, love representative things, and I think it would be more than fitting if this group had representative gemstones. Because of that, I think Ruby suits Hwiseo the most, and I kept thinking, for some reason, I think representative colors should match their gems, so hers becomes ruby red. But then, for some reason, I still kept thinking, and then I thought it would be neat if they all had a big cat as their representative animal. So I googled a list to see the options, and there are exactly 7 big cats. It's a sign. So I decided Hwiseo should be cheetah because it just feels like they fit with red. Nana then becomes, as I'm sure most people could have guessed, our main dancer and center. She just has such a strong presence on stage, she's really in her element while performing, and I hope this ranking opens a lot of doors for her. Aside from that, I'm putting her down as a lead vocalist. Anyways, I don't think many people could argue if I were to give her the visual role, so she gets that as well. Something about her just screams diamond to me, so that is her representative gem. There's no official color for diamonds, and there's no color named for them, so I have decided to pick a random shade of light blue and name it diamond blue just for her. If they could do it for IZ*ONE, we can do it for Nana. For her, something about a snow leopard just fits the vibe to me, and diamonds, ice, snow, it all works out. Next up is Yuki. I just can't get over the fact that she made it into the lineup. I'm so happy for her. I've been rooting for Purple Kiss since their amazing debut with Ponsona and even greater follow-up with Zombie, so I'm just really happy to see her get her flowers. In a slightly controversial move, I'm putting her down as a lead rapper. Like I said, I've been rooting for her, but there's someone more capable in this lineup. I will be needing everyone to tune into their upcoming single Festa. She's also an incredibly strong performer, so she's getting a lead dancer role. I also think we can't ignore that she's a good vocalist as well, so she gets a vocalist role. There's a certain aura about her that immediately made me think of Black Onyx as her gem. Obviously, that makes Black Onyx her representative color. As for Big Cat, I decided to stick with the color theme and go with Black Jaguar. Kay is obviously the main rapper of the group. As good as I think Yuki is, Kay just outdoes her every time. I couldn't even finish the sentence. No, Kay is clearly our main vocalist. She's just too good. You don't have the Kay in your group and make her anything but the main vocalist, Nana. I'm a bit torn on if she should be the leader because on the one hand, she's the oldest and did show some strong leadership capabilities on the show. And on the other hand, I can't tell if that was just her taking the lead because she was the oldest in age and one of the oldest in seniority and she felt like she had to. Usually the oldest does become the leader in Mnet survival show groups, but maybe the dynamic is different since they're all debuted idols. So for now, I'm gonna say she isn't the leader. As for gems, it's not technically a gemstone, but you can't tell me pearls don't suit Kay perfectly. Although most commonly associated with white, I've always loved the pink hue of pearls, so I decided her color should be pink pearl. It also reminds me of Lovely's. As for animal, I decided on the regular leopard. Now we have Yorem, who is another very clear candidate for main dancer. She's also proven herself to be a very good vocalist, but I want her to be a vocalist. She definitely got more moments to shine in this show than in Ujusonyo, but I'm not confident in giving her lead vocalist position. Aside from that, she and Nana will really be carrying the performances as the main dancer, so she'll have her parts for sure. As for her gemstone, is anything more appropriate than giving a representative space girl selenite? For the color, we're keeping it in the family and going for Silver Moon. Something about her makes me really think of traditional Korean culture. I can't tell you what it is, but she felt like the most appropriate member to represent tigers. Nearing the end, we have Yeonmi, one of two actual leaders in the lineup. I just don't see her as the leader for this lineup. Definitely can see her taking the lead in the practice room though. She's been very proactive there from the start. As our main all-rounder, she's someone I see fulfilling all positions. She's a lead dancer, lead vocalist, sub-rapper. I don't expect her to do a lot of rapping though, but I just can't ignore how good she is at every role. Obviously, she's not the only all-rounder in the lineup, but in my opinion, she's the only one who doesn't have a main skill among them. She seems equally good at all of them. For her gemstone, I was really drawn to Emerald. The green complements her. That's why emerald green is her official color. Like I said about Youngin in my Kepler video, she has a deceptive powerfulness, so again, I felt like a cougar would be her best match. Finally, we end with our main rapper, Yeon. Versatile, consistent, reliable, and her skills are derived from Hyuna herself guiding her. Tough act to go up against. I've also been saying from the beginning of the show that she would make a great leader, and currently she's my frontrunner for the position. She's also a really nice vocalist, so I feel comfortable giving her a lead dancer and vocalist position. To me, she really screams Jade, and I admit I might be a tiny bit influenced by the meme music video. Similar to Yorem, she feels really representative of Korea, which is why I chose Jade as her stone. Her color is, as expected, jade green. Because in this scenario, she's the leader, I felt no big cat would be more appropriate than a lion. Now it's time to get into the album itself. I debated with myself for a hot second on what to call it, but suddenly Crown Jewels popped into my head. Yes, it did immediately remind me of Haikey's Crown Jewel, worth a listen if you like Blackpink or Everglow by the way. However, I figured it could have a crown version and a jewel version, as well as individual member jewel cases or digipacks, those being named for their respective gems such as diamond version, jade version, ruby version, etc. But I know what we're all here for, the music. In my video on the finale, I suggested a lot of possible songs and sounds they could go for with a particular highlight on Sistar, but the more I thought about it, the more I've been craving a resurgence of retro K-pop. And no, I don't mean disco or synth pop or Y2K retro. I mean back to the 60s and 70s, the genre where so many second generation girl groups' best songs were born. No matter how my tastes in K-pop have changed, I keep coming back to this. I wish I could blame it on my parents, but they were born in the 60s, so I heard a lot of 80s and late 70s music growing up. Shout out to Appa. So come with me as I take you on a journey through EL7Z's first album, Crown Jewels. We open, as with most great albums, on an intro. I was faced with a near impossible task. I needed something that could tell us what kind of album we'll be listening to, but also something that they can perform. Because a big part of their career is apparently about performing at Mama. I finally landed on Nine Muses A's Your Space. I figured it could be a great performance to highlight Nana, Yorem, and Yeonmi as dancers, and I can very clearly hear Kay sing the first line and Yeon the last line. This is followed up by a B-side, something for the summertime, you know, something for the girls to get down and get ready to. I say this in all of my reimagining videos, but I really do care about the listening experience of an album. To me, it's like that Beyonce quote about how people aren't putting out bodies of work anymore, just quick little singles that burn out, then on to the next one. It's why I think a full-length album should always have a sense of direction, should always move naturally from upbeat to calmer, have songs that sound like a beginning and an end at the beginning and the end. That's why I put Brave Girls' Fever as the first track, despite not being the title track. I think it's a great beginning to the album because it gets you a bit hyped, but it also tells you exactly what to expect from the album. All this leads us into the title track, one I've already suggested for the final group way back in episode 2. I am, of course, talking about Brown Eyed Girl's Brave New World. It hits that sweet spot of it being empowering girl group music while also putting a very personal spin on it that can make the song resonate with listeners. I want there to be a budget, so I'm thinking a futuristic concept in the same way as 21's Come Back Home, but with more of a retro, bright feel instead of the dark dystopia. Since the song is about a brand new world that they want to show the listeners. The second B-side keeps up the summery vibes. Looking for songs for this album really forced me to realize how much of Twice's discography post Feel Special leaned into the retro 60s to 80s music. I settled on Baby Blue Love as the fourth track on the album, partly because I figured it would be a fun concert song. Usually I don't have to consider the performance quality as much, but their career so far, announcement-wise, is literally 70% performances, 30% music. This track is a song I think could be a good option to perform at an award show. I would hope, since they're an Mnet group and performing at Mama was one of their main things, that they would get to perform about 3.5 songs. So intro, title track, one B-side, maybe a second B-side or award show exclusive. So I landed on A Pink's Red Carpet. There's some reminiscent elements to Red Velvet's Pose going on, especially with the red carpet imagery, but more importantly, it has a dance break. It was pretty much created to be performed at an awards show. Speaking of Red Velvet, the next track on this tracklist belongs to them. The retro is finally moving more towards a 50s, 60s cusp. You could possibly even cite elements of it as more 30s. Based on the later tracks in my plans, this is the perfect transitional song because it has such a blend of decades. It's sultry and would definitely be part of its own section in concert. I'm seeing chair choreography. Also, La Rouge is very vocally heavy, so it would be a great chance to show the great vocals of Ye and Yuki and Yoni. Finally, we're at the ballad number of the album. I've said it before and I'll say it again, every tracklist needs a ballad or calm song, and if it's long enough, it should have both. This tracklist is definitely long enough, so here we have the mandatory ballad in Fromis9's Fly High. I will admit, this was partly inspired by Rise Up, partly by Kepler's Another Dream. They needed an uplifting ballad that fans can make emotional post-disbandment videos too. Lyrically, it kinda matches Rise Up too, but it has a lot of moments to show off Kei and Hwiseo's vocal skills. After that, the song I would really like as the promoted B-side. Keeping with the retro theme of the album, Dreamcatcher's jazz bar would let them show off a completely different side of the group. There are two ways the performances could go. They could sing it sitting down on a stage recreation of a lounge bar, or they could have a simple choreo. The one thing they cannot do is pull a one of these nights. Do I think it's a song for award shows? No, but it's most definitely a song to perform. I feel I love you. Oh, I love you. Twice make a reappearance with their song Up No More. It's a bit more modern than the 60s, 70s vibe I've been aiming for, but we can let a little 80s influence slip through. I think this is a song a lot of people want to steal for their faves, and I can't blame them. It's a fun song. It showcases a lot of vocal tones and is one of few songs on this tracklist that has multiple rap sections. But it would also allow more than just the main vocal to take on the chorus, more than just the lead vocal even. The tracklist takes an even brighter turn with Oh My Girl's Parachute, so this is a song that people will just think of as a fun, bright song, a great concert ending song, until the disbandment forces them to look at the lyrics differently. I don't know what it is with me, but I see a project group and immediately start thinking about how to sprinkle hints of their disbandment into their discography. It's not my fault though, Mnet didn't tell us how many albums they're expected to make, so I just have to assume it's the one, debut and disbandment album. The last original song I'm including on the album is actually an English track. Original English track, but still English. You may be asking yourself, why does that matter? Simply put, if they're supposed to be this global group going on a world tour, you might want them to have at least one song that most international fans can sing along to. I know it's not a requirement, and many fans learn the sounds of Korean just from listening to the songs, but just trust me when I say things get so much more hype when everyone can sing along. Anyways, the song is Twice's Moonlight. It's a stripped down pop, so it's even easier for fans to sing along. I'm also expecting this to be later in the concert set list. Now it's time for the final track on the album, a bonus track. We needed to include at least one Queendom Puzzle song, so I decided to go with Last Piece. It was one of the strongest performance songs on the show, and it would be a great concert opener. Does it sound anything at all like the rest of the songs I chose? Absolutely not, but sometimes you have to set the vision aside for something more realistic. Speaking of realistic, I know I am absolutely not being that, thinking they're going to release songs with a bigger vocal focus. So because I don't trust Wake1 to be able to read the room when it comes to girl groups, I also came up with a worst case scenario. So the song I think is more likely to sound like the actual debut they have in mind is something like CLC's No, or Helicopter. Out of everything, I think something like Uju Sanyo's You Got is most likely to be what their promoted B-side would sound like. They're still good songs, just not what I would want the group to sound like. Especially not after what happened to Lovelyz when their company tried to force that sound and image onto them. All this to say, I am cautiously excited for what EL7Z might bring us, despite the unfortunate name. I just don't trust Wake1 to pull it off. Honestly, I also think there's a very real chance of this being a full-length album, but a majority of the songs are just Queendom Puzzle songs, EL7Z version.